I'm sure she's fine now. There we go.
Me and Charlotte failed physiology. Oh, it's big picture. Where's my phone? That's it?
Okay, actually, I don't know if that's
We're live?
I don't know.
Make sure you. What?
How did it go with Matthew on Saturday night?
What about it?
So how was it?
It's fun.
It was fun?
Yeah, we're gonna have
I had fun.
Oh my god, why?
You look so pretty.
KBEV, hold on.
Go on the other side.
much for joining us today to honor all of the Israeli lives lost on October 7th, 2023, and within the past year.
We would like to welcome Charlotte Korchak, the International Senior Educator at Stand With Us. Stand With Us is a nonpartisan organization that focuses on education of Israel and anti-Semitism. I'm a Stand With Us high school intern who heard Charlotte speak at our conference in August and felt extremely empowered by her. And we are very lucky to have the opportunity to host her today.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of numbers in my head. 366 days. I don't know how we've gotten to 366 days. 1,200 people who lost their lives that day on October 7th. 250 people who were taken hostage. 101 still being held hostage. Tragically, not all of them alive. We learned last night of yet another hostage who's not alive. His name is Idan Shtiegel. I had the pleasure of meeting his mother, who up until last night thought he was still alive. October 7th is a day that will live in every Jewish person for the rest of our lives. It was the day where we experienced the single largest massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. For us, it was our Holocaust. What people went through that day, the brutality of that day, it's unimaginable. I've spent almost 365 days speaking about it. And it doesn't really get easier. But in those 365 days, for much of them, I decided not to talk about the details of that day. Because they're just too awful. They're too much to bear. And the last thing I wanted to do was stand in front of mostly Jewish people and re-traumatize them over and over again with what happened to us that day. Now I say us, but I should stress that on October 7th, it wasn't just Jews that were killed. It wasn't even just Israelis. It was everyone. Anyone and everyone who they could find. It was women, it was children, babies, whole families. It was the elderly. It was Israelis, it was foreigners, it was Jews, it was Christians, it was Muslims, it was everybody. It was the definition of an indiscriminate attack. And there's a part of me that almost says, it would have been better had they just killed them. Because so many of them, it wasn't just that they were killed, they were tortured. What they did to women that day, that still somehow people, until this moment, are denying. What they did to men that day. The same kind of brutality. You hear the stories of parents shielding their children with their bodies. Many of them successful in saving their children's lives, and that's how we know these stories from these children who survived. So many orphans who watched their parents die in front of their eyes. There's these crazy thoughts of we're the lucky ones, the whole families who died together, where all of them were killed, so none of them had to suffer the loss of a family member. It's a day that, I could say changed my life. I think it changed every one of our lives, the lives of those who are connected to Israel, Zionists, Jews around the world. Prior to October 7th, I did this work. I did this work for 14 years. And I was knee-deep in anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism before October 7th. And yet somehow I consistently mourn the world that we lost. The world of October 6th, 2023. The world where we all felt a little safer. A world where many believed that anti-Semitism wasn't around anymore, that it was a thing of the past, that we Jewish Americans have somehow been able to overcome it. And then it all came crashing down for so many. And even for me, again, somebody who faced it every single day, I never thought it could get as bad as it has gotten. I spent time in the South since October 7th. I decided in January that I had to bear witness. I had to see with my own eyes. I had to stand in these places so that I can tell their stories. The stories of those who we've lost, the stories of those who are still being held. The story of so many, and how do you tell 1,200 stories? How do you commemorate 1,200 lives? It's almost impossible. The Times of Israel has a page called Those We Have Lost. They've spent 365 days gathering stories of the people who perished that day. And after 365 days, they've still only been able to write 900 stories. They're not even done. It's just too much to bear. I don't know if there's words of comfort that I can give for what happened that day. There aren't. And you shouldn't feel comfort. You shouldn't. Throughout the year, yes, we found comfort and we tried to keep going because we had to. We have to survive. We have to keep going. And as Jews, we survive. That's what we do. We become experts at it. We know how to survive. But we also need to know how to mourn, know how to grieve. And throughout the year, we survived. And today, we're back to grief. To truly feeling what we felt a year ago and trying to understand what has happened since. October 7th and the brutality of it did something to me, and I think to many Jews around the world. It took so much from us. It took, again, from us our feeling of safety in this world. It took from us so many people that we love. It took from us, for many, what they thought was the promise of Zionism. The promise of Zionism that Jews will be safe now. That we live in a world where they can't hunt us down anymore and kill us. And that dream for so many was shattered that day. Now, I don't think it was. I think it's our job as Zionists, people who believe in a Jewish state in the land of Israel, I think it's our job to constantly be reworking and redefining and re-understanding what that means. And the promise wasn't that we would be safe, because nobody can make that promise to us. God even said to us, we were told, in every generation they're going to rise up to destroy us. So the promise wasn't that we were going to be safe. The promise was that I can have children, and they can have children, and they can have children, and that my great-great-great-grandchildren can live in the same place that I can live. That I don't have to run to another place, that I don't have to be expelled, that I don't have to flee, but that I can stay in one place, my one place that I call home. That was the promise of Zionism. The promise of Zionism wasn't that we would be safe, but that there would be somebody there who would work day and night to protect us. And while those people might have failed that day, so many didn't fail. We are not a people who runs away from violence, who runs away from an attack. We are the people who run towards it. And so while, yes, maybe the establishment failed that day, people did not fail us that day. Israelis, both Jewish and not Jewish, they ran towards the fire. Many losing their lives in the process. Heroes who said, the promise of Zionism is that I'm going to run towards the attackers. To me, what Zionism ensured was that day there would be somebody to stop them. I try very hard not to think about what would have happened had there not been an army to stop them. Because 80 years ago, there wasn't an army to stop them. And they marched village to village, and they rounded up Jews, just like they did on October 7th. And they slaughtered them, and there was nobody there, and nobody in this world who stopped them. And the promise of Zionism was that day there would be somebody to stop them. And if there hadn't been, we would have seen 7 million more Jews killed. Because that was the goal of Hamas that day. I've heard the word genocide too much in the last 365 days. But we should be using that word. But it's been used in the wrong context. What happened on October 7th was genocide. Hamas entered sovereign Israeli territory, and they slaughtered innocent people with the intention of slaughtering as many as possible, with the intention of wiping out as many Jews, as many Israelis as possible. That is genocide, with a pure intention. That is the appropriate place to use that word. That is what we experienced that day, and that is why Jews felt it so deep in their core. Because we've been here before. But again, I am so grateful and proud to live in a world where we stopped it, where it couldn't get worse, and it was already so bad. So no, they didn't take Zionism from me. There's something else though that I think Hamas took from so many of us. They took away our humanity. I've spent a year talking to people, and yes, the casualties, the people who we lost, and the hostages, that's where my pain sits. But then I had an extra pain because I stood in front of so many Jewish people who looked at me and said, I can't feel compassion. I can't feel empathy. I don't know how to invoke that emotion anymore. And my heart breaks even more. How can they take so much, but on top of that, they can take away the thing that makes us who we are? So I vowed to myself at some point, and I say it and repeat it on a daily basis. I say, they've taken so much from me, and I'm not going to let them take my humanity as well. So I fight to feel compassion. I fight every day, because to me that is the biggest way that I can respond, the strongest way that I can respond to what Hamas did, is to tell them that no matter what they do to me, they will not take that from me. What's happened since October 7th is tragic. So many innocent people have died. That is the tragedy of war. And you know, so many people say to me, they say, well, I'm just against war, and that's why I want Israel to stop what they're doing in Gaza, because I'm just against war. As if somehow any of us in this room are pro-war. I'm also anti-war. And you know what? In every war, there is going to be somebody who is anti-war. Because every war is started by one group, one side that wants that war. And that was Hamas. And then you have another side whose role is to fight back, to defend themselves. So I don't want war either. I don't want innocent people to be losing their lives. I also don't want more innocent Israelis to lose their lives. And when you have an enemy who 17 days after the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust comes out and openly states that they are going to do this again and again and again, it is your job, it is your duty to fight them and stop them. I'm proud. I'm proud of what Israel has done in the last year. And that is something that most people would say I am crazy to say. How could you say that? All the lives that have been lost, how can you say that? And I could say it because, yes, every life is a tragedy. Every single person is a world in and of itself. And yet I'm a historian. And I understand the scale. And I understand that given the circumstances within which Israel is being forced to fight, given the fact that we have an enemy who doesn't care about us, but also tragically doesn't care about their own people in any way, shape, or form, willing to sacrifice them, willing to use them as shields for their own protection. People who have spent millions of dollars instead of investing in their people above ground, investing in themselves below ground, so that when they did this, they would have somewhere to hide, while the people above them took the hit. But even then, even after putting us through one of the most traumatizing, horrific, brutal massacres that we've seen in the 21st century, even then Israel still says, no, we are going to maintain our morality. We are going to do our utmost to protect innocent people, even though these people are people who are raised to hate us, raised to kill us, and then they did. But we're still going to protect them because that is who we are. So I might have struggled to feel humanity and to feel compassion and to find that morality, but I am grateful and I am proud that I have an army that always knew what they needed to uphold. Israel has done its utmost to try to make sure that while doing what has to be done, which is getting rid of Hamas, eliminating their capabilities, making sure they can never do this to us again, they still said, we are going to do our utmost to try to make sure that as few innocent people as possible will lose their lives in the process. Because just like I'm suffering, there are people in Gaza suffering their own losses. And pain, on top of more pain, doesn't alleviate the pain. And that's not what we're trying to do. This isn't revenge. I don't want revenge. Revenge doesn't give me anything. It doesn't achieve anything. This is about making sure it never happens again. Because that's what we say, right? Never again. So I implore you, even in the hardest of moments, when you feel yourself losing that humanity, when you feel yourself struggling to feel the compassion that is us as a people, I implore you to stop and muster everything you can to try to feel that emotion for yourself. That is a challenge. We are not whole. We are not even able to fully grieve because 101 of our brothers and our sisters are still being held. Yarden Bibas, Shiri Bibas, Ariel Bibas, Kfir Bibas, the youngest hostage, who has turned 1 year old in captivity. My friend's brother, Al-Kana Bukhut. These people, these families, they need to be whole again. They need to be able to bury their family members. They need to be able to mourn the loss, and they need their family members home. Naama Levy, Agam Berger, Daniela Gilboa, Karina Ariev, Liri Albag. Say their names. Every day, remember them. Pray for them. That's the only power we have. But we're not whole. And so what I think the world doesn't truly understand, when they demand of us endless empathy, what they don't understand is that we don't have the capacity. We just don't have the capacity. How can you hold all of this at once? You just can't. It's not human. Because Because we're not just grieving, we haven't even been able to heal. And we won't be able to until they're all home. And that's a scary thought. You know, the first time I ever put on a dog tag was back in 2006. I'd been in Israel in the summer, and on June 25th, 2006, a soldier was taken hostage. His name was Gilardian. 2 weeks later, I boarded a plane back to the United States, and I landed with the news that war had broken out in Lebanon, and another 2 soldiers had been kidnapped, Eldad Regev and Ehud Goldwasser. And all of a sudden, we started to print dog tags. Dog tags that had 3 names on it: Gilad, Eldad, and Ehud. Eventually, we got back Eldad and Ehud's bodies. Gilad remained in captivity for 5.5 years. Every year, on the day of his kidnapping, would also track the days that he had been held hostage. On his birthday, August 28th, would post about his life. And that post popped up in my memories a month ago. And it was over 1,000 days. Over 1,000 days. We can't wait 1,000 days. They don't have 1,000 days. They don't have one more day. We have to bring them home. We have to bring them home now. And I don't understand it. It befuddles my mind that we don't live in a world where there are not people everywhere. Politicians, journalists, actors, influencers of all kinds. Why they're not every single day saying, bring them home now. Saying, Hamas, release these hostages. And if every single day for the last 366 days, that's what people have been saying, we probably would have seen a different result. But instead, what the world has chosen to say over the last 366 days is ceasefire. Finally, the Jews have the ability to defend themselves, and what the world says to us is, don't. You don't matter that much. Abandon your people. Let them die. Because that's what a ceasefire is. It's letting them die. It's resolving them to their fate. No. And I still don't understand why. Why the world struggles to understand. How every mother in this world is not screaming, understanding what it would be like for your daughter to be in captivity, knowing what these Hamas monsters could be doing to her every single day. I don't understand it. And every one of us should be screaming. We live in a very unfair world. Today, while we mourn, while we grieve, there are people in the streets, in the world, protesting us. Saying that this was the beginning of their genocide. No. You want to scream about something? Scream about my genocide. That's actually, to a certain extent, our power. You know, I'm very proud to be a Jew. And one of the things that I'm most proud of is that as Jews, there is something that we've always rejected. We reject the notion of victimhood. We have been the endless victim in this world. We have been victimized in every generation, everywhere we've ended up. But don't you dare call me a victim. We Jews reject that notion. We are not victims, we are survivors. And we don't just survive in this world, but we thrive in this world. That is the Jewish way. So yeah, they tried to commit a genocide on October 7th. But within a few days, we didn't act like victims. We acted like survivors. We rose up and we started to fight back. And the world doesn't like that. Because in this world, in this day and age, victimhood is a currency. A currency that we don't barter in. And I wish so many people in this world could take their cue. I wish desperately that the Palestinians could take their cue from us and understand that victimhood gets you nowhere. But that's what they're doing out in the streets today. Look at how big of victims we are of the last year. That's what they're saying. I'm not a victim. I'm a survivor. I'm a survivor. I'm gonna act like a survivor. What does that mean? That means that I'm gonna work every single day to bring light back into this world. That's our power. Our power is in all of the darkness to bring light. Today is a day of pain. It's a day where I'm allowing myself to feel a lot of the emotions that I suppress every day because I have to get up and I have to function and I have to be able to do my job. But today is the day that I will feel that pain. But in this last 365 days, there's something else that I feel almost every day. And that's hope. I stood up right before I got here. I was watching the ceremony in Israel, and we ended the ceremony by singing Hatikva, the hope. A song written in the depths of the horrors of Europe. And I say, if they can have hope, I can have hope. How, people say? How? With everything that you see and everything that you do and everything that's happened to us, how do you still have hope for the future? And then a very smart, very wise man who is no longer with us helped sharpen this for me. The late, the great Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, who if you haven't encountered, I really encourage you to read anything that he's written, because it will inspire you, it will motivate you, and it will deepen your understanding of the world. But this was a man who preached humanity. He preached that every person, every single person was made in the image of God, and we needed to treat people that way. But he said something about hope. You know, as hopeful as I am, there's something that I don't have. I'm not an optimist. I always hated that term when somebody said optimism. I said, I'm not an optimist. And I never understood why I hated that concept. And then Rabbi Sachs taught me why. Because you see, optimism is passive. Optimists just sit back. They live their lives expecting that everything's just going to be okay. Somebody else is going to do it for me. Hope, on the other hand, hope is active. You don't just sit back and expect that everything's going to be okay, but you work every single day to make sure that things are going to be okay, and not just okay, but great. So you know why I have hope? I'm lucky enough that every single day I get to do something. I get to be active, to do something that will change this world. And more importantly, what gives me hope every day is you. The people who show up. The people who take the time to come and learn, and in this case, mourn and grieve and feel all of the feelings that we need to be feeling, but show up. Say a prayer. Do what's right. So, if you ever have those moments of hopelessness, which I know every single one of us have had endless moments of in the last 365 days, my advice to you is to do something. When you feel hopeless, do something. Say a prayer. Go do an act of kindness. Wear your Jewish star with pride. Walk tall and proud as a Jew. The biggest and easiest way for us to combat anti-Semitism every single day is to just walk tall and proud as a Jew. And that in and of itself is an action that will reinforce hope. So walk tall. Never ever allow somebody to make you feel ashamed about being a Jew in this world. You have so much to be proud of. We stand on the shoulders of giants, of survivors, of people who fought tooth and nail to not just survive, but to make this world a better place. And we, the Jewish people, have every antidote to get through this. And to get through it not just as good as we were before, but even better. And not just for us to be better, but to leave this world a better place. So So let's all work to leave this world a better place. Let's all take a moment and remember our hostages. Say a quick prayer that they'll be released now. Until that moment, that God keeps them safe and out of harm's way. And every day when you do that, you'll feel more hope. And we will get through this. And we will come out of it better and stronger than we've ever been. Thank you everyone so much.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. Before everyone leaves, I think you had such an amazing impact and a point. So I think, as she said so beautifully, we need to act on it. So I feel maybe we could take a moment right now. I'll say a little prayer with everyone for peace around the world, for the safe return of the hostages to their homes, and above all as well, safety of our soldiers that are putting their lives in danger every single second. And this Rosh Hashanah, I said in my shul, I said, remember, there are soldiers that don't have a Rosh Hashanah this year. There are soldiers that possibly won't have a Yom Kippur this year, and we have to have them in mind. So, moments of silence with everyone. I'll say the prayer. I'll have everybody in mind. Just have in mind that you're praying that everyone should be safe and sound, the hostages should come home, the soldiers should be safe and sound, and there should be peace around the world. Shir lama'alot esayna el heharim ma'in yavo azri azri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz al yiten lamod raglecha al yanum shomerecha hine lo yanum velo yishan shomer Israel Adonai shomerecha Adonai silecha al yad yeminecha יומם השמש לא יככה וירח בלילה. אדוני ישמורך מכל רע, ישמור את נפשך. אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם. Those of you know the declaration of every single Jew, the Shema, say it together with me. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Okay, everyone. To Jillian. First of all, I want to give a huge thank you to Beverly Hills High School for allowing us to do this. Please give a round of applause. Thank you so much. I really want to thank you very, very much. I don't know everyone that was involved. I know it says Beverly Hills Jewish Club, the Star Club. I know, but I don't know. There's other people that are involved. Maybe Jillian, you can name them here. Thank them for being involved in such an amazing thing. Jillian, take the mic.
Thank you everyone for coming today. I just wanted to give a big shout out to everyone that RSVP'd and decided to come to this wonderful event. Thank you so much to Charlotte for coming today. Thank you to Rabbi Sakai. Thank you to our administration. Thank you to our entire district for making this possible. And if you guys, and this is annoying, but if you're late to class, don't worry, you're going to be excused. Everything, so you don't worry about that right now. Thank you.
Yeah, you could actually go to class. They actually can. So, yeah. If you guys want to be added to the Hebrew Club chat, see Jillian. She has the QR code. You can scan it to get added to Jewish Club chat. QR code for the WhatsApp for Jewish Club.